up, my decadent little Dole Whips? This is Rob from A Gay Guy Plays, and yes, that is the fruit theme that we are going with today. Listen, I have clocked in way too much overtime, and my brain is absolutely fried, so that's the best we're gonna get. Regardless, today on The Daily Grind, we're going to be having a chat about DE introducing hard mode as well as ultra hard mode, but more specifically, the rewards that we should be getting for it. Now, I was actually watching the at-home dev stream during my lunch break, and I got really excited about the proposition of finally getting some instant difficulty into the game. That is, until I heard what we gonna get for all that extra effort, and I was like, not today, Satan! So I had to go ahead and pop off on Twitter to give them my 2 cents. Now, one of my favorite DE staff members, old back in the day community lead DE Drew, was like, well, what rewards do you want to see? So I figured I would go ahead and toss this video together for him. Now, before we jump into all of my propositions, I did want to give you guys a little bit of an overview of what they are trying to introduce. So, we have our current star chart as it stands, and what they're saying is once we complete that, we will have access to hard mode, which will increase the enemy base level by plus 50. So you'll be able to select the node and then go into one of the hard mode modes. That's a lot of mode, but listen, it's like 3 a.m. right now, so you're gonna just have to roll with me. Now, after we've completed all of the hard mode nodes, we'll be able to get access to ultra hard modes where the enemy base level is going to increase by 100. Now, I did initially put 150. I don't know if that was just tired eyes, but I was like, no, 100 sounds more correct. Anyway, what we're gonna get reward-wise for this is resource attenuation, which I'm not sure is the right term, but I'm assuming it's going to be a boost in the amount of resources that we get for fighting these enemies. In addition to that, because of the fact that we are fighting higher level enemies, we're going to get increased XP, as well as, and this part I got really excited about, mastery implications. Now, as many of you guys are fully aware, we're slowly crawling to mastery rank 30, so I'm curious to see what's gonna happen after that. However, they didn't give us any more details, but to close things out, and this is where I went like, oh no, DE, don't do it. They said that by completing these nodes, we would get ship trophies. No, you can fuck right on off with that. As you can see, we're going to have a little bit of a rant in this video, but in addition to that, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a table of contents to this overview. We are going to kick things off with a little bit of a Rob rants. Then we'll move on to all of the rewards, the achievement-based rewards, the loot table rewards, we'll touch on some dropped rewards, then the implementation, and this is the important part, of earned rewards, and last but not least, what I actually personally want more than any of this. So let's start off with DE is lacking common sense when it comes to rewards. We've seen this, and there is a current narrative that is going through that when you log into Warframe, it does not necessarily feel rewarding to play. And that's because of the fact that I do think that there is a big disconnect between what we're playing and the rewards we're getting for it. Now, that's not to say that DE hasn't done good reward couplings in the past. One of the best ones out there is actually conservation. It's not a game mode that I personally give a shit about playing, but you know, there are some people out there that love to save animals, and you know, they have this very humane aspect to them, and they just want to save all the floofs. So you know what they get for saving all the floofs? They get fabric versions of their floofs, because it would be really twisted if, you know, the animals that they save, they end up getting stuff put in their ship. Probably not a great idea, but you know what? The theme is correct, and it fits the type of person. Now, I want you to common sense this out with me. We have players that want to go out into the field and take on extremely hard enemies. What the hell does Warframe have to do with any of this? They're out participating in combat for higher level enemies, sometimes on hours on end, so what does that have to do with ship decorations? You see the disconnect? Players who are seeking difficulty are most likely not sitting on their ships. They're probably out testing builds on difficult content. Why reward them with something they have little interest in when you could give them something that would encourage them to play more of what they love? Let me repeat that. Why give them something they have little interest in when you could give them something that would encourage them to play more of what they love? And that is going to be the big underline for everything that I'm going to try to introduce today. So let's go ahead and start things off with achievement-based rewards. Now, of course, these are going to be things like, completing different nodes on the star chart, yada, 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 so on and so forth. Now, again, ship decorations, sure. But you know what a better thing is for somebody who's actually going into missions, somebody who's trying to get dressed to kill, is a sigil. You can earn these by completing all of the nodes on a specific planet or just the star chart in general, or maybe even come up with the sigil for just hard mode and then a more like energized sigil for ultra hard mode. However you want to handle it. And I just want to put this out there again, like I was saying, I came up with this, from the time I watched the dev stream to the time I came home and then the little nap that I had, and then now it's 3 a.m. and I'm doing this. So all of this is flexible. You guys can go ahead and kind of strip this down and take different takes on this. But a sigil is something that you can actually bring into a mission. A sigil is something that you can bring onto a relay so people can actually see that you've achieved something. Let me put this out there right now. Ship decorations. How many of y'all are really out there inviting people onto their ship? I would like to see, a research study on the percentage of players that actually do this. In fact, I would like people to sound off if they even knew that they could invite somebody into their orbiter. I'm just saying. So a sigil is something that you can actually bring with you, and different variants of that will kind of like encourage players to, go into ultra hard mode. Now, topping that off and going a little bit higher, a lot of people said that they would love to see ephemera. And I think that this would be cool by completing all endurance nodes in like a specific planetary system, right? So, do the survival, do the defense, yada yada. DE could come up with the duration that they want. So whether it's an hour survival, a 30-minute survival, a 20-minute defense, a 40-minute defense, whatever the hell they want to attach to it. But I think that completing all of the endurance nodes should allow you to get an ephemera by earning it by achievement. Now, the last thing that I think would be a really cool achievement one by completing all the nodes and endurance modes would be a landing craft skin. A lot of people were talking a lot of shit about the Lisette Prime when it initially launched, but guess what? To this day, when you go out there with the Lisette Prime before your mission comes in, right? You do your little whale spins, your little dolphin-like flips, all that kind of shit. People are like, where did you get that skin? I didn't know you could get a Lisette Prime. Well, guess what? Maybe you could introduce like an Umbra skin for the ship and then give like a more brilliant version of it when it comes to taking on hard mode or ultra hard mode, sorry. So those are the things that I would like to see for achievements by completing nodes or, completing entire groups of nodes. Next, moving on, let's talk about the loot table. One of the big things that I would love to see introduced, and because of the fact that it is going to be for more experienced players, which means that they've invested a lot of things into their Warframes and potentially would be investing even more, I think we just need built forma right there in the loot table rewards. It's got to be like one of the more common items, maybe just an uncommon item, but the reason that I wanted to put this here is because it's used a lot for building other types of forma. I'm hinting at something in the earnable rewards, but it's basically like you're earning another form of currency that you can kind of upgrade with, whether you're directly upgrading a weapon, a Warframe, or you're building into other upgrades like other types of forma. We'll talk about that in a minute. The next thing that should be in the loot table rewards, and I'm going to get some heat for this, but you have to understand that when I propose certain things, I also try to keep in mind the perspective of DE. Umbral forma should be there, but it should be a very low drop rate on rotation C for endless missions and caches for cache style missions. Very low drop rate, and the reason that I'm putting this out there is because I don't think that DE wants us to have a ton of Umbral forma. Now, I want me to have a ton of Umbral forma. I want you to have a ton of Umbral forma, but we have to have a little bit of compromise when it comes to propositions like this. So I'm saying, let's make it available. Let's have people be able to get it, but a very, very low rate. And again, DE can decide whether they want to, implement it at a certain percentage or not. But at least this would be a nice proposition for people to maybe get into these types of missions if this was in the loot table. Next up, very, very basic, ribbon shards, because a lot of people love their ribbons. Ducats, I think, would be great. Instead of having to go through all of the hullabaloo of farming blueprints, if you just want ducats, you should be able to go into specific missions and just get yourself some ducats. And then, of course, universal medallions. And of course, when it comes to ribbon shards and ducats, maybe a higher amount during the ultra hard missions, and during universal medallions, maybe a higher quality version of the universal medallion could be offered in the ultra hard modes. Now, in addition to those, I also think it would be cool to see different types of boosters for different types of factions. So I would say a 3-hour booster or a 6-hour booster, depending on if it's hard mode or ultra hard mode. The great thing about this is it cuts down on farming or makes it more rewarding to go in and farm. So the way I would break it down is the Void would have affinity boosters. Grenier would have resource, Corpus would have credit boosters, and Infested would have drop chance boosters. There are other types, we'll talk about those later in the Earnable Rewards. But I think that what's great about this is that you could have a very, very targeted strategy. Let's say if you're going into the weekend, right? Maybe you want to spend your Friday night farming up a couple boosters, you know, so that they can stack on. That's why I'm going with 3 hours and 6 hours, you know, so that they can stack, but it won't stack to like a crazy degree. So that way you can set yourself up at the beginning of a weekend, coast through the rest of the weekend to get whatever it is that you need. But by breaking it down into different factions, number one, you could target specifically what you want to get. Whether you're going to be farming for focus, so you want the affinity booster, or maybe you need to just load up on credit, so you can go ahead and go for the Corpus to get the credit booster. That way you could create your own targeted strategy, but in addition to that, it would press players to go into different faction nodes. So that way, it's not just the Void. That way, it's not just Infested. If people want certain specific things, they will go into different places and they won't just be in one specific part of the star chart, you know? So that way, we get a little bit of variation instead of playing the same nodes over and over again. So again, great way to set yourself up for success when it comes down to farming anything that you need, right? Now, let's go ahead and move into dropped. The dropped I didn't go too heavy in because literally when it comes to the other rewards that could potentially come from this, they're so much bigger. But I'm thinking that what would be nice is that enemies would drop advanced crafting. So instead of things like detonite ampules, mutagen samples, we could just have fully built detonite injectors and fully built mutagen masses, so on and so forth. But specifically for void type enemies, I think that it would be kind of cool if the corrupted could drop void traces. You know what I mean? Instead of having to do fissure missions, we could just earn void traces this way and set ourselves up for success when we do want to go ahead and farm specific parts. The last little bit that I wanted to include here, and this is a big question mark because it's a sensitive issue. I know that DE likes to keep Nitane to alerts, aka Alertium, but it would be nice to see a couple drops of Nitane here and there so that they wouldn't have to rely so heavily on dropping in alerts when Nightwave is down. So it'll be another way for them to be able to implement Nitane into the system, but only through higher tier difficulty. Now, the next bit is going to be the biggest part of it all, which will be earned rewards. Now, we've been seeing a lot of things like arbitration shards, anomaly shards, all of these things where we can get tokens in order to purchase the things that we want to cut down on RNG. Now, my whole theory on this, and this is just a theory, but I feel like it's a really strong theory, the reason that RNG is so prevalent in Warframe is because Warframe is easy and doesn't have a failure state. The only failure state that Warframe really has is RNG not being on your side. In other games where we have difficulty, the failure state is you failed, thus you didn't get the reward. In Warframe, you don't really fail, so the only thing that fails you is RNG. But because of the fact that we are going to be jumping into more difficult missions and pushing really hard in those missions, I think that maybe we could kind of cut back on the RNG with the use of another token system. Now, the question is, how do we implement this? That's a big thing, right? Well, if we take a look at the star chart, because as you guys know, the way that this is implemented, it's going to be an overlay on the nodes that we currently have. What nodes would happen to be left out of the star chart that can't really offer any difficulty, but we look at all the time and we've only really used once on our entire journey in the star chart of Warframe? Junctions! That's right, they already exist. It's not something that you have to create, you can just tweak it. So now you can have the junction node as well as the, hard mode junction node. And basically what that junction will do is it will turn the specter that resides in that junction into a merchant, where you can spend shards, but more specifically, planetary shards. Shards that are specific to each planet. Again, this would promote players going to different planets. So that way, because this is something that D.E. Scott had mentioned, and it really kind of like rustles my jimmies, was saying that, oh, Warframe content creators only ever use a simulacrum. They can't really show off the rest of the game, yada, 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 so on and so forth. Well, guess what? This would really incentivize players to look at the different types of environments out there by forcing us to go to different planets to earn specific planetary shards, because each planet would have slightly different reward pools, all right? And once you unlock the second difficulty level, the ultra hard mode, that would also further unlock more rewards from that specific star chart. So let me give you an example, because it seems a little bit obtuse right now. But let's just say that DE wants to introduce an earnable corpus weapon. What they could do is the blueprint would require you to purchase it with Venus shards. All right, so you go to Venus, you earn your shards for the blueprint. The barrel would require you to earn Phobos shards. You could go to Phobos then, get those shards, you get the barrel. Receiver would be Neptune shards, and Pluto would be, or the link would be Pluto shards, right? So as you can see now, we're going through the entire star chart, or different parts of the star chart, to go ahead and earn these shards. So now we're not just stuck in one loot cave seeing the same thing over and over and over again, thus fueling our burnout further. And of course, this could be done on a whole bunch of different levels. So let's go ahead and jump into that. So faction-specific weapons, like I was saying, a Corpus one could be tied into all of the different Corpus planets, a Grineer one could be tied into all of the different Grineer planets, so on and so forth. Also, one of the things that we never see is faction-specific armors. That would be super duper cool if we had like one that was like all in flames, or partially in flames because it's Grineer based, or an electricity based one for the Corpus, Spore one for the Infested. Something that's really eye-catching, but you could spread the shoulder piece onto this specific set of planets. You could spread the leg piece on this specific planet, the chest piece on this, and then the Syandana on another one. So that way it would incentivize us visiting different planetary sectors, right? It wouldn't just be one specific area. The other thing that I've been wanting to introduce, and this was actually a whole different series that I wanted to do when I saw DE kind of struggling with some of the monetization out there, and I was like, listen, maybe let's find a cool new way for you guys to take a look at monetization. But one of the things that I really wanted to introduce was more universal weapon skins, like series of universal weapon skins, right? Like, I think that would be dope because it's coming with our deluxe skins, but we only get like one specifically themed one. What if we had Umbra weapon skins, right? So that's an entire theme. Of course, we would have primary, secondary, shotgun, we would have bow, we would have different melee weapons. So again, you can spread them out to the different planetary sectors. Thus, we would go ahead and use those specific planetary shards to pick up that universal weapon skin, right? And make them look pretty, goddammit. We need pretty skins. The other thing that could be afforded to us, of course, is, like I was saying earlier, because of the fact that Forma would now be in the general loot table, built Forma, you could go ahead and introduce things like Aura Forma, Stance Forma, which was only available during the Scarlet Spear Railjack thing, this is a great way for you to be able to introduce it back into the game. And then Weapon Excellence adapters, etc. Whatever type of weird forma y'all are coming in with next, you can go ahead and introduce them to these different planetary junctions. You know, maybe a specific type of forma for a specific type of faction, so on and so forth. Same thing goes, and I think that this is going to be really a lot more exciting, is lately when you guys did the arbitration mods, where you had the Weapon Excellence mods, I think that's a place where you could totally expand and maybe have a different type of Weapon Excellence mod for a different planetary sector, right? Or weapon-specific augments. I think that would be fantastic as well. Similar to that of arbitrations, for those of you guys who don't know, they have really, really cool ones right now where if you shoot an energy orb with a pistol, you get bonus energy. Or if you shoot a health orb with your primary weapon, maybe, I don't remember, I think it is, then you could get bonus health. So things along those lines added into the pool, because that would enrich our gameplay for those that are going to be in hard mode. Plus, the fact is, those Weapon Excellence mods are a little bit boring. Not the arbitration one that I was talking about, but just the ones that we have in general. A little bit boring, so this could definitely help out with that. The next thing that I wanted to push out there was the fact that arcanes now require 21 in order to max out. So if you want to incentivize us to play specific things, you know, you could let us earn tokens towards arcanes. Maybe not, you know, the general arcanes, because we don't want to kill off Eidolons completely, but maybe come up with some specific arcanes for hard mode and ultra hard mode, really like well-performing ones that players would actually want to get 21 of. But think of that as there would be a lot of sink in there, time sunk into that in order to get arcanes that are worthwhile. Now, this next one is going to be interesting, but I would also like to see vaulted relics. So whatever the current vault is that we've unvaulted, right? I want to see vaulted relics in the earnable section. But I want it handled in this very specific way. There would be a different relic in each of the planetary zones. So that way, and hear me out, I know it sounds crazy right now, but if a certain player wanted a very specific relic, they could go to a planetary sector, grind out the shards that they need, and get that exact relic. Because for players right now, one of the things that they freaking hate is the double RNG, or maybe even triple RNG that's attached to cracking relics, especially vaulted ones that are time sensitive, right? So this way, they could be like, I have all of the other pieces that I need, but I know that on the Jupiter segment, I could go ahead and farm out one that specifically will give me a chance, because it is still just a chance, keep that in mind, to get a specific part. So that way you could go to specific planets in order to get the specific relic you need in order to complete whatever it is in your collection, right? So I think that that is very valuable to players and reduces the RNG just a little bit. Now, we're going to get into some of the more fun stuff. Because, you know, we were talking about, you know, ship decorations and sigils and, you know, customization. And, of course, we got to have some fun bits here and there. But I think what would be really cool is, again, we're going to break it down to factions. So, you know, all of the Corpus nodes, maybe they have components and blueprints for a Railjack skin that is themed around the Corpus. Maybe the Grineer have the blueprints and the components for a Railjack themed around the Grineer. You know, same thing goes for the Infested. Maybe not one for the Orokin, because I know y'all want to make a Railjack Prime skin at some point, but I'm just saying, it would be a great way for players to be able to get their hands on another skin. And that's your art department, you know what I mean? That's your art department. It's not programming, it's not anything complicated like that. But you can go ahead and have those available, and then you have these very distinctive skins, and you have some cross promotion between your base game as well as your Railjack, right? Just saying. The other thing, and I think that this is gonna sound kind of nuts, but I'm gonna be real with you. Your ship decoration thing like triggered me, and I was thinking about all of the things that would be better than ship decorations. And you know what's freaking fantastic What we're not looking at is ship decorations when we're doing extended runs. You know what we are looking at? UI. So if you could give us specific UI, like, you know, themes and like, I don't know what the other word is, themes and customizations, specific to, you know, certain factions that would be earnable, guess what? We're going to be looking at that more than we would look at ship decorations. So, you know, having another high-end Corpus theme with, you know, Corpus UI laid over it. Same thing with Grenier, same thing with Orokin and Infested, and so on and so forth. Give us those new UI options because we're staring at that a lot when we're playing extended runs. The next thing, these two are potentially arguable. But mod boosters, you notice that I did not mention that in our first booster set. But mod boosters, I know, are a new thing that you guys introduced that I think should totally be able to be earned. And of course, you guys can decide how many planetary shards it would require in order to get that. Or maybe mod boosters and these last two would require multiple shards from different planet sections, you know? Mix it up like that. But mod boosters and, ooh, this could get me in trouble for mentioning this, but a rush token. I know that sounds like a rush token. Sometimes, y'all, we want to build shit and not pay for it and not have to sit there and wait. But you know what? If you have a new Warframe out and somebody is constructing it and they're willing to put in the hard mode time to get the shards for it and they want to do a rush token, yo, just let them have a motherfucking rush token. You know what I mean? Let them have a rush token. I know it kind of cuts into plat sales a little bit, but a rush token would be nice to introduce. So those are all of the things that I would love to see introduced with earnable rewards, and as well as the implementation of how you would work that in to the star chart, because it's already there. It's already been worked in. I'm just letting you know. But the last segment, and I have not outlined this at all, because this is just going to come from the heart. This section is what Rob wants. Okay, this is what I'd like to see above all. I would like to see hard mode and ultra hard mode lead into new progression. So maybe have a new focus trees or new progression trees specifically for the Warframes. I've talked about this in several different videos, being able to improve certain aspects of Warframe, like giving them a higher base range, but just for that specific Warframe, or higher base efficiency, yada, 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 to be able to like incrementally improve the Warframes, or maybe even give them complete utter twists to what they can do. Maybe an augment slot, whatever. I'm just saying, I would like to see further progression that is earnable only through affinity gained in hard mode and ultra hard mode. All right? So that means that these are for the dedicated players that are in hard mode and ultra hard mode busting their butts. They can't sit there on, what was I going to say, Draco? Oh my god, I've just dated myself. Hydron, not Draco, but Hydron. This is made for the players that are pushing themselves in hard mode. This is made for the players that are really seeking to get into ultra hard mode, right? Give them another layer of progression that will be able to help them and encourage them to play more in the areas that they love, because their Warframes individually are getting better. Listen, we can talk about a whole new progression tree in a different video. We could talk about new, arcanes and new weapon Exilus mods or weapon augments in a completely different video, but that's what I would like to see. The XP earned in hard mode and ultra hard mode going to a new progression system. That's what I want over everything else, because right now in Warframe I feel like I've progressed as far as I'm going to progress, and you're not going to give us any more power than we currently have, but you are giving us hard mode and ultra hard mode, so that means that we can get stronger. So we should be able to get stronger and rise to meet the new difficulty. So that's what I would like to see above all else. We can cover that in a different video, but I've been rambling for almost 30 minutes now, and it is like almost 4 a.m. So Rob needs to wrap it up and record some background footage. Let me know how you guys feel about the things that I've proposed here. Maybe introduce some tweaks to it. Maybe introduce some other items that I might have left off in the earnables or within the loot table drops. Let me know how you feel all about that down in the comments below. But be kind, because I'm tired, all right? So that about does it for me for now. And as always, love somebody. hurt nobody, and wash your goddamn hands, and fucking don't bitch about having to wear a mask. I have to wear a mask like fucking all day long for what I feel is absolutely no reason, but I do it anyway, so don't bitch. Or we can bitch together, but still wear your mask. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!